and welcome, dear viewers, to our special coverage to President Abdel al-Sisi's current visit to Qatar, where the President received a red carpet welcomed by Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad in Doha at the premises of the Emiri Diwan. Expanded talks were held with the attendance of delegations from the two countries before summit talks were held between both heads of states. Dear viewers, a short break and we'll be back, so stay tuned. Welcome back, and to shed more light on the importance of this visit, we are joined over the phone by Mr. Mohamed Abdel Halim, political analyst. Good afternoon, Mr. Mohamed.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
So, sir, President Abdel al-Sisi is currently visiting Qatar, and the tour of the head of state highlights the depth of strategic ties between Egypt and Qatar. How do you see the importance of this visit?
Indeed, His Excellency, Mr. President Abdel al-Sisi, indeed did arrive very recently, actually, to Doha. Starting a state visit with, Prince Tamim, examining a large number of political situations and, enhancing and very much stabilizing the bilateral ties between the two countries, actually. This state visit actually comes on the part of His Excellency, actually, immediately after the advent of Emmanuel Macron, the French president, and it seems to be a continuation, actually, for the establishment and the fortification of the diplomatic relations between two countries on the first, essence. And in the meantime, it comes at a very crucial time, that is the existence of a delegation of Hamas at Cairo to negotiate and to discuss, a large number of terms, actually, of exchanging hostages and captives, and in the meantime to reach to the permanent ceasefire. Indeed, the visit of His Own Excellency to Doha was highly esteemed, actually, on the part of Prince Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, actually. And the state visit was, officially and ceremonially received in the first instance at Doha airport, starting in the meantime negotiations between the delegations of both countries, indeed. As a matter of fact, Mr. President Abdel al-Sisi did attend and meet, actually, a large number of delegations of the Qatari businessmen committee, with the attendance of Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al Thani, that is the Prime Minister, the Qatari Prime Minister, as much as the Foreign Minister. In the meantime, in addition to a large number of delegations and representatives of industrial and commercial chamber of Qatar, as much as the committee of the businessmen of a high delegation, actually, with the collaboration of a large number of negotiative attempts on the part of big firms and companies working at at Doha and on a large scale. There was indeed, during the course of the meeting, on the fortification of the stabilizing of the situation of the bilateral relations with both countries in almost all fields, and perhaps on top of almost all the examinations and discussions was, the development of the situations that attract a sort of a situation in which Mr. President Abdel al-Sisi, His Excellency, actually necessitated the stoppage of the extreme sense of fire, actually,
Yes.
between those parties, with the view of reaching to a permanent ceasefire and working with a very much successful and very much negative steps to the de-escalation of the Israeli aggression, actually, of the present time situation. A situation in which, Mr. President Abdel is very much concentrating every now and again on the collaboration side by side with Qatar, with the view of helping every now and again with the view of reconstructing Gaza Strip again, that Egypt is insisting every now and again since the Arab League, summit during the course of the last March, actually. Because of the escalation of the situation in the Middle East, and because of the aggression of the Israeli attacks every now and again on Gaza Strip and their own insistence, on attacking the civilians and committing a large number of criminal wars and genocidal attempts, actually, as well as massacre deaths. Actually, there was actually in the meantime aggravation and escalation on the part of the American situation in the Middle East, that is a great deal of seriousness of the arrival of vessels, of aircraft and ships, of Harry Truman, of Oliver, situated that, they say in a couple of weeks there will be actually, Carl Benson in the meantime carrying a large number of modern technological weaponry, Gerald Ford. All these, aggravation of the present time situation in the Middle East would give us a clear testimony of how dire the situation is, and in the meantime of how negotiations would seem to be quite very much important. A sort of a thing that His Own Excellency is quite aware and is very much quite considering with a great deal of seriousness during the course of the examination of the political situation with Brent Tamim, actually, in Doha today. Immediately after the finalization of today's political situation and examination, His Own Excellency, Mr. President Abdel will be heading to Kuwait, which is supposed to be the second station, actually. But concerning the summit, the Qatari-Egyptian summit, actually, it acquired a great deal of importance, particularly, the situation, the bilateral situation between both countries, because there is a great deal of serious attempts to stop the sense of breach that was at one time, at quite some time, between both countries, because, I think from my own point of view that the diplomatic relations between both countries, that is Egypt on the one hand and Doha at the other, would retain to its own previous days of serenity and of peace because of the cooperation, and fortification of the presidential authority, actually, to return, the previous political examinations discussion as it was indeed during the course of the last years. Because, this is a very important point. The Israeli press, for quite some time was talking and examining and harping on, every now and again, on Qatar Gate, as a scandalous affair, a sort of a situation that was to be there with the view of rekindling the sense of enmity and hatred between both countries, actually. But either with it is to do, or it is to be, eased to a greater extent. So, it was a tempest in a cup of tea, actually, and yes. All these leakages, actually, on the part of the Israeli side, could be understood as somehow or another an attempt on the part of the Israeli side to make a sort of breach and to make and create a sense of enmity and hatred between both countries with the view of stopping the negotiations and reaching to a mutual identification within the Palestinian situation and the Palestinian cause.
Yes.
And as such, this visit on the part of His Own Excellency is very much meaning and very much underlining the pacification of the political situation and the tension that used to be between the both countries at one time, then pushing the negotiation between both Egypt and Qatar on the way of solving the Palestinian cause, and of the attempt on His Own Excellency's part, actually, to put an end for the Israeli allegations, actually, and the evasiveness on the part of that, entity, as much as with the view of concentrating on the cooperation of the reaching to the negotiation, actually, to put an end for that sort of quagmirish attempt on the part of the Israeli side at the present time situation. As a matter of fact, this sort of visit, is an attempt on the part of the presidential authority to bridge the gap and to cooperate and to try to stop almost all the rumors, actually. And there is a great deal of cooperation between, Egypt and Qatar at the present time situation. And in the meantime, it acquires a great deal of significance because of, Hamas delegation is in Cairo today. I mean, insisting every now and again on the stopping of the war and of being followed by, the exchange of the captives and hostages, actually. Whereas the Israeli side is, insinuating every now and again on the part of Israeli CAF, that is the military, minister, that there should be a sort of aggravation and aggression on the part of Gaza Strip and of continuing the military attack every now and again, with the view of coercing Hamas on, withdrawal, actually, and to, give the hostages, actually, whereas Cairo is insisting every now and again on the withdrawal of the Israeli troops, of the two-state solution, and actually of setting free almost all the hostages. And in the meantime, the situation, despite the fact that it seems to be a bit complicated at the present time situation, but we would have to say that the attempts on the part of the presidential authority of the now and again to coerce Netanyahu and Israeli cats, actually, and almost all the Israeli generals of, accepting the conditions and the present time situation, whereas, the Israeli side, as represented by Netanyahu, is quite panicked of an early elections and of achieving what you might call a sort of fiasco or failure in the war. And as such, it seems to be quite, the negotiations passing through a large number of tribulations, very much dire, very much difficult in the meantime. But hopefully, today's meeting between His Own Excellency, Mr. President Abdel and Sheikh Tamim of Qatar may reach to a consensus of opinion between two parts with the view of, stopping the war and of,
Yes, Dr. Mohamed, also, if we talk about the Qatari business representatives of the Qatari business community, as President Fattah al-Sisi met with them also on Sunday, the President said that the world has faced recent challenges, including repercussions of COVID-19, food and energy markets fluctuations, and current trade tensions. The head of state said that trade tensions could impact the global economy, noting that those factors necessitates concrete efforts to foster Arab economic integration. So, sir, if we talk about the importance of the Arab economic integration at this stage, as the world economy is facing many challenges, what's your comment on this?
Well, indeed, rightly so. I mean, His Own Excellency's words would seem to be quite very much apt concerning the present time situation, the dire aggravation and the maximization of the international prices of oil, prices of gold, and international arena actually would seem to be quite, aggravated to a great extent, particularly at the heel of pandemic of COVID-19 and the lack of the chains of supply and the Russian-Ukrainian war in the meantime. All these elements, when added to the present time situation of the, the lack of the revenues of the attack of the Houthi rebels on the vessels and the ships in the Red Sea, and the necessitation of the returning down the Cape of the Good Hope, this is one of the very much dire situations that would affect the Egyptian economic situation. It would decrease it to more than half of it, actually. That's why, all of us, we would have to be very much cooperating with each other, very much unifying our own intentions and attentions towards the, negotiations and pacifying the present time situation of putting an end for the disputes and for the struggles and for differentiations among each other. It's perhaps a hotbed. It's perhaps the very much suitable situation on the part of the present time situation, as much as being necessitated by the, His Excellency, Mr. President of Tahsis, that would have to be very much cooperative, very much unified, with the view of, facing the internal threats as much as the external menaces to a greater extent. And perhaps, this sort of visit, in addition to the economic value and bilateral relations and the very much mutual identification between the two countries, it may indicate a strategic partnership, actually, because both Egypt and Qatar are being viewed by the American administration as very much helpful hands in pushing the negotiations to a very much peaceful stage, very much active steps towards, normalizing the situation and to the escalation of the present time situation in not only in Gaza Strip, actually, but perhaps in the whole Middle East. For quite some time, Egypt was passing through a breach of relation with Qatar, as I've just said a couple of minutes ago, because of the advance and because of the attempts and the false allegations of the Israeli side to try to, separate and to make a sort of a split in the diplomatic relations between both countries. But at the end of the day, I think that the present time situation and the aggravation of the Palestinian situation would necessitate to a great extent the sort of cooperation and the unification, not only between Cairo and Doha, but actually among all the Arab countries. And perhaps this is to be insinuated by the presidential spokesman when he did, state today that the next station will be Kuwait, which is a clear testimony to the fact that not only Qatar, not only Kuwait, but perhaps a large number of Arab countries would have to be very much unified at the end of the day with the view of reaching to a consensus of opinion that would finally end and stop the sort of the aggression on the part of the Israeli troops, reaching to a peaceful settlement, as much as the act of exchanging the hostages and the captives between both sides, and the return again of the refugees, as much as the abidance of the Gazans within their own homeland, coupled there and then with the process of reconstruction for a second time.
Yes, Dr. Mohamed, one final question. We'd like you to also shed light on the President's expected visit to Kuwait, which is also expected to start soon here on Monday. So tell us more about the importance of this visit and the expected topics that the President expected to tackle.
His Excellency's next visit, actually, very soon to Kuwait will be, I think, very much considering also the situation in Gaza. But in the meantime, actually, the Syrian case, because the negotiations and the development of the situations in Syria after the seizure of the Israeli troops on Al-Qunaytira, on Jabal al-Sheikh, on the Golan Heights, actually, would, seem to be among the topics that will be, discussed and examined on the part of His Own Excellency, with the view of confirming and insinuating, actually, insisting on the stabilization and the confirmation of the Egyptian people with the Syrian people, and to achieve the aspiration and the dreams, as much as to reach to, a consensus of opinion and of spreading peace and security in Syria. In addition to Syria, I think that, in Kuwait as well, I think, there would be a discussion about the Lebanese state, its own national organizations, its own stability, and reaching to a sort of peace coordination, as much as meeting the challenges, and to reach to, a stoppage of the aggression on the part of the Israeli troops at the south of Lebanon, and the absolute and comprehensive withdrawal of the Israeli troops, actually, and consumption and confirmation of Code 1701 that would seem to be in the benefit for almost all concerned.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Mohamed Abdel Halim, political analyst. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Dear viewers, show break, and we'll be back, so stay tuned.